What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I've got some pretty exciting news today. Some pretty cool stuff coming to the channel that I think, at least hopefully, a handful of y'all will be really interested in. It should be really exciting. But first of all, I want to say it's been super hectic with work lately, and I've just been going super busy with work, and then really haven't had any projects. Anything going on, and you can only video so much powder coating before that starts to just get kind of monotonous, and y'all have already seen some of that. And the last video I did, which was my buddy's first gen, that video did great considering how few subscribers we have so far, so I was super pumped for that. So thanks all of y'all who tuned in and watched that video and commented. That meant a ton. That was super exciting to see. For only, I think, 36 subscribers we're at almost 1,000 views, which I'm really happy about. So I've got something today that isn't something I ever thought I'd own, not in a bad way, but I didn't ever think I'd get my hands on one necessarily for the price I would buy it for and the shape I would kind of want it in. So what I have today, guys, and I'm just going to get this video going with a walk around of this thing. It is a car, and it does have four wheels. I was toying around with doing an old like Honda CB Cafe Racer motorcycle build. Decided to do something with four wheels that I can drive around with a wife or a friend or whatever, and not just be more of a solo thing, but that we can enjoy it together on the nice sunny days and just have something to kind of tool around town in. This is a project car. There's a lot of unknowns about it, but let's get right into it, and I'm going to show you all the car, and I hope a lot of y'all will be really interested in this. So what we have, guys, is this crazy machine. So it is an MG Midget. It is a 1974, and I have more unknowns about this car than I have answers to right now. So I bought it from a guy locally who claims that it runs. He claims it, and I did see videos of it running about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. There were videos of it running, idling, revving it up. He claims all of the gauges work in the car, which would be sweet because it is a 74, so it is technically a classic. It's not incredibly desirable compared to obviously some of your other 70 era classic cars, but I still think it's a super cool, unique, tiny car. I think it weighs in wet at like 1,620 pounds from the research I did. It is rear wheel drive. It comes equipped with a 4-speed with reverse, which is hilarious. This is the factory gauge cluster. Supposedly, well, I don't know what the top speed is, but they got a speedometer that says 120. I would be surprised if I can get it over 80, but that's not the goal for this car yet anyways. So you can see, the carpet is actually in good shape. It's not torn anywhere. It just needs super cleaned up. The car itself is incredibly dirty. You can see on the trunk just a lot of crud that just really, I mean, it wipes off. So some of this may not, but I'll be really interested to see. It looks like that does too. How clean we can get it. Just doing a super heavy scrub on it, washing it off, multiple washes, cleaning up the existing chrome that's in okay shape. The wheels are a little rough, obviously, but as y'all know, we do powder coating, so I'd like to try to restore these factory wheels and see what I can make them look like. I don't have a color scheme yet. I have tons of ideas floating around in my head on everything, and the first goal one is to see if we can fire it up. So I put gas in it. I have yet to put my jumper pack on the battery because it's dead, and see if we can even get it to turn over. That might be a mission in of its own. The reason it didn't drive, what he said anyways, he drove it, parked it for winter. He just drove it around town locally. You know, probably needs some work before it would be really reliable to take on any kind of distance drive. But he drove it around town, parked it, went back out to start it up sometime, I guess, in the springtime. Got it to start up fine, but something, it wouldn't go into gear with the clutch or something. He could start it in like first gear and it would move. So something either with the clutch or the clutch hydraulics is having an issue. We'll see what that looks like, what we can do with it. If we got to do a new clutch, no problem. See if there's something kind of stuck up under there that's freezed up that maybe we can unstick. I have no idea, guys. This is the first day y'all are looking at this thing with me, other than a walk around I did last night. It does have rust on some of the rockers, which is a little unfortunate. I would have loved to have found a spotless one, but in the tight budget I was working in, it is what it is. My plan is to repair that at some point, do new paint or a wrap job on it way down the road though, way down the road. So it's got all 4 new tires. It comes equipped with this, I think it's like a 1600 or something cc inline 4 iron block, iron head. It's a very sturdy, beefy looking engine. It's got new plug wires, new distributor cap. He claims the heater box works. Again, no AC on this model. The radiator supposedly doesn't leak. I haven't even looked to see if there's water in it, guys. I have a ton of question marks. I bought it on a little bit of a whim because I've been wanting a little toy to goof off with, and then a little bit of a project for the channel for y'all. The carburetors, he claims, have been rebuilt. Again, we'll see about that. I believe it's a mechanical fuel pump. Not sure exactly if it's a mechanical fuel pump or electrical fuel pump, but I think I've got some starting fluid if we need it. At least if we can get it to fire, we know that the spark plugs, everything like that is getting ignition. This side has much better on the rust, just a little bit down there on the lower rockers. Oh, and right back there on the quarter panel rear. I did get under the car when I was there. I did do some due diligence, and underneath has some flaky surface rust, but I couldn't find any holes. The body frame, all that seems to be pretty solid. The floor pans seem to be good, which is a huge win. I would rather do some of this cosmetic stuff than some of that deeper underlying rust. It has the soft top with it, which has shrunk a little from the sun, so I need to see if, one, I can either re-stretch it with heat and work it for a while, or just buy a new one. There's a pretty big market for these things as far as aftermarket and factory parts, so it's easy to get my hands on one of those if I need to. But yeah, guys, supposedly all the gauges work. I've got either a second starter or an old starter in the rear. I filled it up with gas. I had a little leak from this coupler right here, which that's no big deal as long as you stay below the coupler. It doesn't leak. That will be replaced at some point, but just super dirty. Just really needs to be cleaned. I mean, it's just super gross. I've been just letting it air out for a few hours, just trying to get some of the, it doesn't have a mildew smell, just a stale smell to it. So I think that's really all I know. It's a huge question mark, guys. I could have bought a pile of junk, but if I did, in this engine, which he claims the previous owner rebuilt, so supposedly it was a 2-owner car. So the previous owner was the original owner. He owned it. He passed away. His daughter took it, who supposedly is a mechanic. Could be. I have no record, no proof of any of this. This is just what he's saying. Not that I don't trust the guy, but you never really know with these. Supposedly she rebuilt the engine, rebuilt the carburetors, and it should be operational. So the true test is going to be when we hook power to the battery, and if we can, first of all, even crank this thing. For all I know, it's locked up. He did tow it over here for me. He just flat towed it. He's not too far away, which worked out awesome. So I'm tired of talking. I want to get in this thing and just try to see if we can get it started, because I'm super excited, because it's been a while since I've had a toy and a project to really just goof off with. So there's a lot of cosmetic things that need addressed. I need to deep clean the interior, but first things first, I'm going to do, see if I can get it running, and either see if it drives or if I can identify the transmission issue. He drove it over here, or he flat towed it over here, and as we were looking, I was just looking it over one more time before I gave him the cash, and I noticed that, check this out, y'all. Again, no hate on this guy, super nice guy. This is an old car, and he's had it sitting for a while, and he was just as excited to get rid of it as I was to buy it, but all of these lug nuts back here were just loose. So hopefully, I mean, like loose. So I'm hoping that, and the tire's sitting a little bit kind of cocked right now, so I need to jack the car up, tighten that on. But first of all, it's sitting here, it's holding air. We're gonna try to just see if we can fire it up. So I'm gonna set y'all up and hook some cables on the battery, which is back under this little box, which is already loose. And I'm gonna see, and yes, it did originally come with 2 batteries. No idea why. Being like a 1600 or 16 something cc engine, should not need 2 batteries to crank this over. So I'm hoping just the one will do it and we can get it to crank. He said that, I have not done my research on this, that this was a positive ground chassis originally, and they changed it to a negative ground, which if that's the case, that is nice, because I've never dealt with a positive chassis before, where the power's run through the chassis. This is a grounded chassis now, which is a little bit more of a modern design, so that will make my life easier in testing everything out. But just lots of little stuff. Old factory fuse box, which has 4 fuses. I haven't seen a single relay so far, which is hilarious, and I love it. So I want to go through, clean all of this up, all the wiring. If I can get this engine and transmission to work with minimal money put into it, I'm going to run it and just start doing a lot of cleaning. So y'all will see a lot of cleaning videos, like cleaning the interior, either stretching the top, getting a new top. At some point I'd like to pull the engine out, clean the engine bay, repaint it, just really make it look nice. It's a 74. I don't know what my end goal is yet with this. I don't. It's all going to depend on what kind of condition it's in right now, if I can get it rolling at all. Okay, after much hassle, CRV battery won't fit in such a small spot, so I ended up just doing jumpers on it, and then I've got the cables running to the CRV battery. Let's see if it'll crank before we kill the CRV battery, guys. I don't really know. Well, let's see. Take number 2. Okay. We've got power. Okay. I do hear a fuel pump. It does have an electrical fuel pump. Clutch is in neutral. Out of gear. Nothing. That's unfortunate. We had it and then we lost it. Which we lost all power, so I either blew a fuse or we drained what little. Let's get that back in gear so it doesn't roll. Not sure, guys. Like I said, buying this thing was a huge question mark. I could have just frizzled a fuse. All 4 fuses are intact. We had power. I heard it click. Okay, so I finally got a battery. It's too big for the battery compartment, so I pulled out the positive cable a little bit farther and ran the ground longer with some wire extensions. Very redneck, but it works. I pulled, but it was acting like I couldn't get a good ground. So anyways, finally I heard it. It sounded like it was vapor locked. So I was like, I'm gonna pull the plugs out. So I pulled all the first 2 plugs out. I just pulled these 2 plugs out, and I did crank it with just 2 plugs out. It cranked over much better, shot a ton of fuel up into the canopy. So now that all 4 plugs are out, I'm gonna crank it and just blow all the gas out of there. I don't know if it's gas, water. I mean, it smells like fuel. It smells just like gas. So I don't know if maybe I don't know if I flooded it or if it's got a leak and it's just dumping fuel in the bowl, but let's see if we shoot any more gas out of here. Oh yeah. It's still blowing out a ton of fuel. I don't know if y'all can see that. So I'm gonna try to blow as much of that out as I can. Yeah, it was just crazy vapor locked. I don't know if the carbs are just, I mean, I can definitely see a lot of gas around the carbs. I'm guessing it's just dumping fuel into the cylinders. So I'm going to put the spark plugs back in, try cranking it. If it wants to vapor lock again, I'm gonna pull off the carburetor line, and then I'll just shoot some starting fluid in there. And if it fires from that, then I know that I'm gonna have to redo the carbs or get a different setup, maybe like a 2 to 1. Do something a little simpler than these old vacuum carbs. I honestly don't feel like rebuilding these antiques. I don't know if you can find parts for them, so I'm gonna stick y'all here and put these spark plugs back in their homes. Look like we got fairly new plugs, but it shot out a ton of gas. So I'm gonna try this with the carbs and see. It may be from just cycling the fuel pump so much that there's a seal that's weak, but I'm gonna try this and see if this fires. If it wants to vapor lock again, I'll blow the cylinders out again, and then I'll disconnect the fuel line and just crank it over and maybe shoot some starting fluid just to confirm I have ignition. And then if I have ignition, I'll probably go ahead tonight and get probably just a 2 to 1 carb setup there. Weber makes them. A lot of different options for that, but probably just get something pretty simple instead of trying to rebuild this whole configuration, but you never know. We may take a crack at them. I just, for now, want to at least confirm that it tries to start. I feel much better though now that it cranks, and I know it was just crazy vapor locked. Now, let's see, I labeled all my plug wires to make it easy on me. It's always a good idea to do that because there is a specific firing order. So I just did 1 through 4 front to back, labeled each and every one of them with permanent marker. And then let's see if she wants to fire up. Okay, this is like take 1000 because I've been fiddling with this battery for so long I haven't even been videoing it. Just gonna tuck that piece of carpet back. Okay, let's see what happens here. No choke, nothing, just... It's cranking. Okay. But at least it's not vapor locking now, which is a good sign. So I'm gonna shoot, where is it? Here it is. Doors keep shutting on me. Shoot some of this trusty starter fluid straight into the intakes. They already look so wet. I think we just got a serious carburetor issue, but still nothing, not sputtering. Could be a spark issue. I'm gonna try lifting up these fuel bowls and blowing straight into the carb. Okay, I shot ether as far up in there as I could get it. So let's try it again. If it doesn't do it now, we'll just start checking for spark and things like that. But at least it's cranking. It's a great starting spot. Let's see. Looks like RPM and fuel gauge work. Maybe oil pressure. It's got oil pressure. And when I do put it in gear, I tried putting it in gear earlier and just like rolling the starter in it, and it rolled, so it's going into gear fine. Okay, let's take out a spark plug and see if we have spark. And how I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna pull this plug out and then I'm gonna stick it on a ground, like with the spark plug out with it plugged in. I'm gonna crank it back over, and if I've got a spark, I know at least cylinder 1 is sparking. It's super wet again, so I think we're just getting crazy flooded. But let me see. I don't know how I'm gonna do this with one person. I might have to get reinforcements to crank it over for me, but I'm gonna crank it again. See if we blow a lot of fuel out of here again, then I'm gonna disconnect the fuel line, because these carbs are just dumping gas straight into the intake, and it may never hit with that much fuel in there. So I'm gonna disconnect. This is the main fuel feed right here, and I'm gonna take this guy off, so that way no more fuel is getting introduced to the system, because I can hear the fuel pump pumping, and you can see I've got gas. Let me try to find a little bottle to stick this over so we don't just spew gas everywhere. Okay. Got a trusty Mean Bean can. We're gonna stick this sucker way down in here, so that way if we do pump fuel, it's not spewing in our engine bay. And then let's see if we blow any more gas out of the cylinder, and then I'll see if I can get someone to turn it over for me while I check for spark. Let's see what we got. I do see a lot of vapor. Oh, it tried. I actually heard it catch for a second, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put cylinder 1 back in. We definitely have spark on some of them. I'm gonna put cylinder 1 back in and do it again now with the fuel line unhooked. If we can get enough of that gas out, it may fire, but it's only gonna run for a few seconds. Take number 5006. I don't even know what we're at this point, but let's see what we got. Oh, she caught. It's sputtering. Trying. Okay, so we were chasing that over-fueling through the carburetors, and I was thinking that one of my fuel bowl needles was stuck. I ended up doing some research real quick on Google, and I found that this hose right here connected to this nipple was routed originally when I got it from the guy up over here and down into another nipple over here. So these two carbs were hooked together with the fuel line. I had no idea at the time that these two nipples actually had little mini charcoal canisters on the side for old emissions technology stuff, and then it was routed a breather out the back in a trunk in a breather tank. So the guy I bought it from had these two nipples looped together, which effectively was like choking the carburetors of air and wasn't allowing them to get any air into the engine. So we were just dumping fuel in there like we suspected. So I ended up pulling the line off, and I was shooting fuel out of this one still when it would run. This one's sealed up, so I do still have a float problem on this one. But I may be able to look at it without pulling both the carburetors off and dealing with the linkage, which I would like to avoid. So I'm going to try to just remove this one and see if it's a stuck needle or a worn out seal or just some varnish like in the needle slide that's just allowing it to stick open, because it is still leaking, and that's why we have this cool makeshift fuel overflow catch essentially. So I'll start it up for y'all real quick. The battery is too big for the spot, but the auto store has the correct size one in tomorrow, so I'm going to swap out batteries so I can just drop it right back in the original location, clean up some grounds. I tightened up the starter wire, wasn't even tight on the bolt. There wasn't even a bolt on it, so I wasn't even making a good connection, but it does start. You've got to keep it floored to get the fuel in there because this one leaks so bad. Runs pretty good considering this guy is still not giving enough fuel air mixture into the cylinders. But I'll go ahead and start it up for y'all real quick, and then I'm going to call it a day for now, but I'd say that's a huge success for day one. I did end up tightening that rear wheel down. The lug nuts that were super loose, I tightened them all down, and I did put the car in gear. It rolls forward, rolls backwards, all the gears work that I put it into. So I'll start it real quick. And oh, got the wipers working. Have a fuel gauge that works, and a tachometer, and an oil pressure, and it looks like a coolant temperature, which looks like she might be getting a little warm with that old radiator, but I don't think it'll idle. No. So as you can see, that's what it's doing now. So next time I'm out, I'm going to try to fix that float without pulling the whole carburetors off, and if I can do that, I'm probably going to run that carburetor setup if it doesn't give me any other issues, since it's on there, and the other one seems to be working fine. It does run, it does go forward and backwards, which is huge. It's idling for now. There we go. So yeah, it looks like the brakes are working to a certain extent. They are always going to be more difficult to push because it doesn't have a master cylinder, or it doesn't have a brake booster. But I'm going to call it a day there. And I think the next thing I'm going to do is obviously fix the carburetors and then just start cleaning it up. Okay guys, so this is going to be kind of part 2 of the video I'm doing, which in the first one you saw we got this guy running. It does move, which is phenomenal. Got some carb issues I got to work on, but I'll talk more about that later. Today I've got my wife who's actually going to help me, and we are going to just be really cleaning this up. There is just a lot of, like I showed you the other day, just gross stuff all over it, and needs majorly. We're going to pull everything out of here, probably pull all the carpet out, just vacuum, maybe even like kind of rinse it, wash it down, wipe it out, clean the carpet, put it back in, that kind of deal. Gonna do the same on the interior. I'm probably going to see how difficult it is to pull these seats out and pull both the seats out just to make it way easier to clean in here. We'll be leaving the carpet in this one unless we find a reason to pull it out. And we'll just, like, we've got some rug cleaner and stuff like that. And then we're gonna start with the inside first. Detail, I say detail, this is kind of just like what I would call like a level 1 cleaning. Although on the interior, we're gonna go pretty hard with it. We're gonna, clean the carpet, remove as much carpet as we can, clean under where we can get to, pull the seats out, etc., etc. And we'll see if we even get the whole interior back in today. But after we get the interior cleaned, we are going to move on to the outside of the car and get that cleaned. Now, I'm not going to use a pressure washer because I don't want to open up any of these rust bubbles that are weak. So we're going to just use hose pressure. And then we've got some buckets. I picked up a bunch of, let me see, it's right over here. Picked up a bunch of different cleaners and stuff to use on the job for today. A little scrubby. We got Chemical Guys wheel cleaner. We've got their Hydra Suds ceramic car wash soap, which we may use this as like the last coat. And even though this isn't really like a true ceramic coating necessarily, we may do this like after a good scrubby wash just to get kind of a coating of that on the car. We've got just some cheap like carpet stuff we're gonna try. I haven't seen really any stains on the carpet, but we're gonna go ahead and use that stuff and see how that goes. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started, and we're gonna pull all the stuff out of the trunk and start pulling any loose junk out of the cab as well. Just all this can come out. All right, we just got all the carpet pulled out of the rear. It's pretty beat up. I don't know if I'll reuse it. The top layer is okay, but all like the padding and stuff is gone. So I may just drop the top layer and so you don't see the metal, but she's a little crusty. Got a bunch of this flaky surface rust. So we're gonna vacuum all this out real good and just keep working. Just gonna start from the front, work over to the front, or sorry, start from the rear, work to the front. So we will keep you all posted. Well, it has been brutal out here. I think it's like 90, 95 today and beating sun, which thankfully this canopy saves us a lot of sweat, but, well, not really. I've sweated through my shirt twice, but it keeps some of the immediate sun off of you while you're working on it. But anyways, guys, I'm super stoked. So my wife ended up vacuuming out the trunk, both sides of the car. We did leave the seats because I didn't want to open up another can of worms right now, not with the unknowns, rusty bolts, bad hardware. I just left them. They're secured to the floor. I said, you know what? Let's get under them as good as we can. Leave the seats. I don't want to open up that box right now, maybe at some point. So we vacuumed around them as best we could, back in the little, like, it's not a trunk, but like back behind the seats, there's just a little bit of storage space. Vacuumed out there. We washed the car. It actually like came out really nice. There are still a lot, like there's some fade spots on the hood in these areas, which those were already all there. I did get the bumper back on. The hood is not latched all the way. Something with the latch mechanism's a little off and I've got to tweak it a little bit, but got the wheels, cleaned up as good as they're gonna get. They're rusty, so it's about all they can do with them. But yeah, I was telling my wife, if it wasn't for the rust spots and stuff, this paint, I don't know if it's original or not, but this paint really is not in bad shape. I mean, aside from the rust spots and the couple fade spots on the hood, it's still really pretty. It's obviously lost some of the shine. I'm sure you could bring it back to life with, some polishing stuff. Oh, a little bit of junk sitting back on here. But it ended up, all that black stuff came off. I need to put the license plate holder back on, but all the black stuff came off. Again, we still do have this yuck in here, which will be dealt with at some point. I have not gone through and washed the seams yet. We were just hitting most of the full exterior. So the whole exterior is done. And then, like I said, my wife vacuumed out the carpets and everything, which looks great. Looks really good considering we just left everything in here. Behind the seats has been done. Looks killer. I wiped the seats down. We wiped all the door panels off. Wiped around the gauge cluster. Someone like had glued something here, so I'll have to try to work that more. But wiped the panels, again, doors, seats, center console. Cleaned up the gauges as best we could. Some of the gauges look like they have a little bit of fog behind them, but we did what we could do with them. So yeah, that's about where we're at. I am going to actually pop the hood. I don't know if I can find it. Pop the hood on this guy, and I did kind of spray these seams a little bit. I was trying to be careful because so much of this wiring's exposed. I was really scared to wash in here, so for now, I think I got a little bit, I washed a little bit here, but I think for now I'm going to take the vacuum and just suck out all the loose stuff back in there. And probably just call that good for today. So yeah, guys, that'll do it. Thanks for tuning in. I will keep y'all posted, and hopefully we'll have another video out here soon with the first full test drive and riding this thing down the road. So we'll see y'all then. Peace.